Hey everyone, Steve Weintraub with Glider here at the Cinema Center at Marble, our studio. I want to give a huge thank you to everyone here for being such an awesome partner at TIFF. I am here with the producer and star and director of Widow Clicquot. Yeah, I finally learned that.
There you go. Well done. We had a little lesson before this.
Yeah, exactly. I practiced about 29 times, and I thought I would mess up, but I didn't. First of all, congratulations on your movie and being part of the Toronto Film Festival. I hate doing the generic thing up front, but let's just get it over with. Okay. Most people watching this will have not seen the movie yet. So who wants to bite the bullet and describe the film like you were talking to friends and family?
Yeah, so Widow Clicquot is the story of a young woman in France in 1799 who is married to her husband. She's in an arranged marriage to her husband, and the film starts with the death of the husband. It's like Sunset Boulevard. It has a body, a corpse, and a funeral, and it's basically the film details the life that they spent together building a vineyard, learning how to make champagne at the beginning of the champagne industry. And so one part of the film goes backwards with their story, showing their relationship, their marriage, and how that changes through time. And the other part of the film goes forward from the funeral, from the beginning, and tells how she takes the reins of the company and becomes this incredible kind of entrepreneur and force within winemaking, and really invents modern champagne as we know it today. So she's an incredible figure in French culture, in world culture. And
she's one of the first businesswomen in not only France, but Europe. But I knew this woman wholly. I read the book, and it's based on the best-selling New York Times best-selling book biography called Widow Clicquot, and I could just relate so much with this character. And I love acting. I feel like acting is something that brings me closer to my higher power, and I think that is what champagne making did, or the alchemy of champagne making did for Clicquot. And I think, to discover your talent, to discover your purpose is something that she did because she had gone through this tragedy. And had she not gone through this tragedy, it's just an example of how adversity can really sometimes shake you up and wake you up and push you into doing something you might not have done, like standing in the shadow of her husband. So some really good things came from, this horrible tragedy, which was her finding her true self and nurturing this passion and talent. So yeah, I compare kind of my love for, like, we all have our purpose, and that was her purpose, as I feel acting is my purpose. And so that gave me very strong kind of, you want to protect the thing that is vital to your existence. And for for her, that was her art. And the champagne and the winemaking is kind of a metaphor for, rather than it being a product, it was a metaphor for how this outlet that she had could heal, could regenerate, could restore, like everything, like most creative process. So it's a metaphor for the creative process and how we can heal through that act. It's a spiritual act.
How tough was it for you to tell people, listen, I'm going to have to drink a lot of champagne to get ready for this role. I got to do some research. How tough was that for you to force yourself to drink champagne?
Well, yeah, I think it could be really easy to fall into alcoholism, playing someone who, we actually have really good friends who we share a dear friend. Her name is Souza, and her daughter runs an operation of winemaking, and it is very impressive. I find it very impressive how they have to really hold back from just getting tipsy all day long.
that was one of the things that I think helped us ground it. And to kind of,
you're sober, so
yeah, but kind of helped us to. I don't know what champagne tastes like anymore, but I think the winemaking process and the sort of the way people work on farms actually to make wine was kind of an interesting way for us to ground the project in a way base it around work rather than the kind of salon life of French society at that time, and where the wine goes and what it means. It was actually kind of more based on people that make something and craftspeople who make something with real, as you know, Haley said, with real passion and integrity.
Digging through, shoveling manure, and there's a real gritty sense and feeling to the film. But also, she was a genius. Veuve Clicquot was a genius with marketing, and in fact, she was the first person to invent the orange label on her, because she smuggled wine. She was a smuggler as well, which was a really bold thing for a woman to do at this time. She could have been hung if she were caught. She would have been in great big trouble. But she was shipping her wine during the Napoleonic War across borders through Amsterdam to get to the Tsar, and experienced loss, and that was devastating for her because this was like her baby. It's her creation. But I liked that she was kind of a criminal as well, and so she invented. So Veuve Clicquot is a household name. We all can recognize the bottle, but that was because of her. So when she shipped out her wine, she tied a tangerine ribbon around the neck of the champagne so it would be recognizable. And this was her idea of marketing.
Yeah. It's the more I learned after seeing the movie, the more shocking it was that I didn't know anything, which is listen, I love movies like that because it can shine a light and make you want to read more. But talk a little bit about, for the two of you, was this a tough project to actually get off the ground and get made? Or was it one of these things, talk a little behind the scenes of trying to get the financing and getting it made?
So after I read the book and I knew that I had to will this film into existence and it had to be made, I could see it, I could smell it, we could taste it, much like the Veuve herself, Veuve Clicquot herself. So, that kind of tenacity is something that you need in this industry specifically, and in any industry as a woman to get a film made, especially. So we had to work a lot on the script to make it economical. So we did that by conceiving the film in one location so that we could get the budgets down for the film, because there were previous drafts of the script that she goes on all of these adventures, but actually and I think that limitation allowed us to, it kind of set us free in the sense that it decided for us what kind of movie that this wanted to be, which really is a very intimate portrayal and characterization of this woman. And I think that kind of really distilled the tone and the storytelling.
Definitely. I think that limitation of placing the entire story on the vineyard, on the farm, if you like, in the vines, it made it a kind of psychological space for the character. And, the story obviously goes to St. Petersburg and they smuggle to Amsterdam and all these, but we don't go there. We stay on the farm with Madame Clicquot.
Who never really did leave her vineyard. She was afraid that if she left the vineyard, it would be taken from her by these kind of vultures that wanted her land. And
but can I just say that one of the things that's good about it is that she never knows what's going on off the farm, because that's how it would have been at the time period. There's no person to call. There's even letters would have been sketchy. So she's trapped on the farm,
this tension,
waiting.
This kind of storm overhead, and that's it. That's all you can predict is the weather that day, and so it really keeps the story in the present while creating a kind of tension. So I think that was something that early on we knew that we had to do to make the film, because it couldn't be, I think one of the first budgets came in at like 19 million, and we're like, there's no way that we can make a film right in this climate for a female driven story for the tune of 19 million. So, you have to find creative ways to just get things made. And so that was imperative to the making of this film. And we have an incredible cast. We're so lucky to have Tom Sturridge and Sam Riley. They were our first choice of casting, which rarely happens because, conflicts of interest with other projects and stuff. But we were meant to film a year prior to the time that we actually filmed, and it got pushed a year. So it was a few years in the making.
I'm always curious to talk about, I like talking about the editing process because it's where it all comes together. So
Very much.
How did the film change in the editing room in ways you didn't expect going in?
The script, when we started, was very focused on dates and places and chronicling her journey, Madame Clicquot's journey through the present, and then, as I said at the beginning, the kind of cross-cutting between the past, which is the relationship with Tom Sturridge, the husband, and then the present, which is her relationship going forward, making the champagne or trying to make her first champagne, and with her mentor Louis Bon, who's played by Sam Riley. And during the editing process, it became clear really that the kind of vitality of the film, or the energy of the film, was cutting between the past and the present, and making the film this kind of almost a window into the inner life of Madame Clicquot by juxtaposing these scenes and these moments backwards and forwards. And we did, when we were filming, we were looking for kind of portals almost between the past and the present. So a lot of the film is about memory. So she's a widow in this house, but it's the same house where she lived with her husband. So there are many moments where she's sort of triggered by something that happens by lying on the floor. Then she remembers a moment where she lay on the floor with her husband and they talked about the vineyard. So we use those moments as bridges between the past and the present. And I think, in a way, because the house and the house itself is kind of like self, it's like it's her. It's like an extension of her and her psychology. So everywhere we filmed in the present, we were sort of trying to push the past into the same spaces, so that we had these kind of chances to move between the past and the present, using the house or the corridor or the office or the doorway or the steps or the courtyard as a joiner, as glue, if you like, between the past and present.
So do you believe that singing to the vines works?
I am a gardener, and I sing to my plants. And actually, I think scientifically, there have been studies that singing and speaking to your plants helps them grow. You have to nurture them. They need to be nurtured. They need to be sung to. And of course, well, anyway.
I wonder, though, if the people that are singing to their plants and it also, those are the same people that are spending extra time watering.
It has to be the song from our movie. Has to be the song, and you have to see the movie to hear the song. So it's a new thing to make your plants grow.
I'm a gardener, but I'm also quite a poor singer, so I think if I sang to my plants, it wouldn't help them. So just throwing that out there. I think you've got to be a good singer.
I have found that the people that baby their plants and sing to their plants are also the ones who are giving extra water and making sure they're taken care of. So I think that goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I think that they really... have you seen, what was the film that was one of my kind of references, one of our references? It's a French film. Jean de Florette. That was one of our inspirations for the film. And do they sing to the plants in Jean de Florette? He's so passionate about these plants, and it's so infused by nature, and it's again just a metaphor for like their they're important. They're babies. They're the future. Yes. They're regenerative. You can chop them down and they grow back. And I think that's really beautiful.
I think the vines themselves and when you're surrounded in that where we filmed near Chablis, the houses are surrounded by vines on all sides, and they're sort of, the landscape of that part of France is very much, it's wine country. And I think we felt when we were kind of developing it and talking about it that the vines,
ancient as well.
Yes, the old vines.
Than you, they have
a life of
really
their own.
Spiritual quality to them.
It felt as though that represented their love story, because the beginning of the story with François and Barbe is them trying to create taste and to create a certain flavor, and
wanted to do it differently than the old ways.
Yes.
They were kind of revolutionary with their mindset. They wanted to go against the old way of doing things. It's set, kind of during the revolution, and
yes.
I think that they very much represent that figure of wanting to do it differently, the way that it was done before, and that was kind of a part of their rebellion, in a sense. We will sing to the vines.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting doing interviews like this at TIFF because you're talking, but you can't really get into the nuts and bolts of things because you can't spoil anything.
Yeah.
But before I run out of time with you, you guys got to premiere here at the Toronto International Film Festival. It is my favorite fest. I love this place. Yeah. For each of you,
Thank you for being here, despite the strikes, and for supporting independent cinema.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And all cinema. And you've been here with directors. I mean, to me, this is the best thing about coming to a film festival is meeting other filmmakers. And regardless of who's here and how starry it is and could be, we have to celebrate the filmmaking and the craft.
100%.
And that is what I love about being here this year.
That's what I was going to say. What does it mean, especially for this year, to have your film premiere here?
It's massive for us. I mean, we are true independents, so this is an amazing festival to come to, and for me, it's my first time here. I've been absolutely kind of bowled over by the feeling in the audiences. They feel very live. It feels it's almost like being in a theatre. It has a very special mood and kind of atmosphere for all of the films that I've seen. The audiences are cheering the producer credits at the beginning, which I've never seen that in any screenings, where they know the previous productions by producers, and it's just a really a buoyant festival, and it feels like the films get lifted by the audience, which I think is an incredible thing, especially for a movie like ours. Yeah.
I was going to say, on that note, I'm going to let you guys go and enjoy some of our food and festivities. And I really say sincere congratulations.
Thank you.
I wish you guys nothing but the best and huge success for the film.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Always wonderful.